Great, you're all very welcome to the launch of The Worms That Saved the World. My name's Dermot, I'm going to be your MC. I'm really honoured to have been asked to do this, and I wanted to start off by saying a few words about Kevin. And that's why I was honoured, because I was honoured to be asked by Kevin to do this. And Kevin and me go back a long way, so it's a short speech, I'm not going to give you the full details. Anyway, Kevin, when I heard about Kevin, actually for a writer, the right introduction is to read him first. And I actually read Kevin before I actually got to meet him. Because he was away, we both share political affinity, let's call it that. And he was away gallivanting the world with his charming and beautiful partner, Mary, who's here somewhere. Oh, there you are. There. So I actually got to read Kevin, and then he returned to Cork, so we all traipsed off down to Cork to meet this guy. And it was one of those things where you meet somebody and you kind of go, like, I was impressed by his writing, but you just knew within minutes that you'd found a real friend. And the thing that impresses me and has impressed me about Kevin is it's one thing to hold a specific political belief and to share that, but it's another thing entirely to defend it, to fight for it, and to struggle with it when you're pretty marginalised in terms of those views. And I think that that's also the secret of this story, because the story of the rebellious worms is really about the collective coming together, and I think that that's quite inspirational. And when I got to meet Kevin all that time ago, he very simply said, oh yeah, I'm just going to be a writer, which was also an incredibly brave move when I was thinking about it, because I was up to my neck in getting involved in working and corporate life, and it was just, I was going, that's such a good decision. But like, it's one thing to say it, but then it's another thing to do it. And I'm really delighted that in the years that he's stuck with it, and he's been really diligent and really applied himself in terms of, he's now getting the rewards. So this book is has duly been honoured and is an award-winning book. And on regular basis now I get updates on Facebook, and I see Kevin's off at another award ceremony making a speech and picking it up, and I think he's become an overnight success since the early 90s. It's great, and it's really great, and I'm really delighted for that. So a couple of years ago he mentioned to me that he was going to do a children's book, and he mentioned the idea about the Old Head of Kinsale, and obviously I was familiar with what went on in the Old Head of Kinsale, and I thought, oh, that's an interesting idea, but then I promptly forgot about it. And it was only when I actually saw the illustrations and the art that Spark created that it really kind of lifted the story of these rebellious worms, and it kind of transcended. I think it's what really makes an amazing children's book, and it's why it wins awards. It's because of that art just lifts it into the imagination of the children. So I think we're really honoured also to have Spark here today. So, and you can get both of them to sign the book. That's very important, and adds value to it. So, for years to come. So that's pretty much what I had to say. I'm now going to formally call on Gregor to launch the book.
Thanks, Dermot. Thanks a million. I think everything that needs to be said about the book is here on the very first page. It's on the banners and the placards that the worms hold up. If we stand together, we can change the world. And it's in the introduction where it says the book is a celebration of what we can do when we stand together. There are plenty of stories about princes and princesses, but not so many about community, solidarity, and standing up for what is right. And I think Connie and her friends in the book, they were inspired by real people in the real world, people whose sense of justice, community, fair play and solidarity generally goes under the radar. It doesn't really, they're not people who look for plaudits, they're not people who look for thanks. They're people who build solidarity and build campaigns in their own communities, of people who know that the job and the task of saving the world is a mammoth task, but it's a task that can only be done one step at a time. It's a task that can only be done if we each individually be the change we want to see, and if we each individually seek to build the power of the collective and realise that by standing together and building solidarity we can be so much stronger. Helen Keller put it, alone we can do so little, together we can do so much. And in the book, Connie says, what if we helped each other? You know, what a simple and yet what a revolutionary idea. What if we helped each other? And in the same way that this book and the characters in it were inspired by real people in the real world, I fully believe that it too can inspire young and not so young minds in this world in terms of how it goes about and how they should relate to the world. It's a tale that celebrates all that's good about community, about solidarity. It's beautifully illustrated, it's colourful characters that will delight and charm, and it's written in a style that will appeal to children and adults alike, I believe. It's a book that should be in every classroom and in every school library in the country. Hopefully it will eventually be. It's in a clear and a very simple way. It delivers a message that when we support each other, we can tackle anything. And it delivers that message in a way that I think will appeal to children and to the child in all of us. What a strong and powerful message that is for the young minds that will read it to absorb. When I said, a few minutes ago, I said the fact that the grassroots solidarity and campaigning and campaigners that inspired this book often goes under the radar, seldom looks for or demands the spotlight. But it doesn't always stay under the radar. And the powerful and those that don't want to see change in the world, they know the strength of that solidarity. That's why they spend vast sums of money policing thought and trying to stem dissent. It's why the state sent large numbers of Gardaí, for example, to protect the private property interests of the Old Head of Golf Links company. It's why the state were willing to spend huge sums of money a few years later protecting the private property interests of Big Oil in County Mayo, and why when the local worms and their supporters from across the country and around the world wouldn't lie down, the state were willing to batter people off the streets. It's why the sight of local communities coming together and resisting the installation of water meters over the last couple of years frightened the life out of the state and resulted in people being harassed, arrested and dragged before the courts. They're just, of course, some high-profile campaigns. But throughout this country and all across the world, every single day, there are people organising to build community solidarity, standing together, protecting what we have and trying to build a better future. Those who don't want to change the world know the strength of that. And as I said, they're willing to spend large sums of money and use all the strength and resources at their disposal to crush us. That's portrayed in the book so well when the planes fly up and down across and back and a mist falls from the sky. But our strength is portrayed really, really well in the book as well when the worms come up with that simple plan. What if we helped each other? We decided to spread out far and wide in every direction. That's our strength. That's our resource, each other, our interdependence, our community solidarity, our looking out for each other. And it's something that comes naturally actually to children and to young people. And it's something that the mainstream society and individualism promoted by our current political model seeks to educate out of us. But it's something that we know that cannot be killed. And I think that's the message that this book, in a simple and incendiary way, delivers. We unite, be strong, stand together, and the world can be changed. So congratulations to Kevin Spark, and thanks very much for doing me the honour of asking me. I don't know why I got this honour, but I absolutely, it's a fantastic honour to help to launch it. I'm delighted to do my little bit to help it on its way. And I know, as I said, that just as this book was inspired by real fighters and campaigners, it will in turn inspire fighters and campaigners of the future. And let's hope there'll be many occasions when we'll be able to gather, as the worms do at the end of the book, with friends, old and new, remembering how everyone came together and saved our beautiful home. So it gives me great pleasure to say those great words. The book is now officially launched. So to the worms, to solidarity, and here's to a better world for all of us.
Now I'll call on Kevin.
I don't need the mic, Kevin.
No, you won't need the mic.
No, I don't think that's good, because it caused a lot of trouble in my last two. Anyway, that's really lovely.
Sorry, Kevin, let's check with the director.
He's okay.
Before I get into that, make sure you're in the shot.
You did very well to recover from that, even though, of course, it was entirely the right thing to do. But no, it's absolutely lovely to be here with many familiar faces here today. In some ways, it's Christmas time, but I think, and it's a Saturday afternoon, it's a difficult time to get around in Dublin and get here. But there's people here who I sort of knew would be here, and it's lovely to see you all and to see that you know, this matters to come here and help us launch this book in the capital. It's in the real capital for today. I have a story about Dublin, but I'm not going to win it. Anyway, no, so it's absolutely lovely. And what you've said about the book, both Dermot and Gregor, I mean, it's very heartening, because I think so many people have got the value or got the point of the book almost immediately. And of course, the illustrations are a magnificent aspect of it, but the story also is something that a lot of people have said, you know, that's great. That's a story that should be on, in the children's section in so many shops. And when we set about working on this book a long time ago, I won't tell you how long, we weren't sure how it would go at all. And I mean, there were many occasions in which we really wondered, is this a good thing to do? Is this going to be, is this going to work? And I mean, we came back to this idea, a couple of years ago there was a book that came out, it's called like Go to Feck Asleep. I think the name is actually coarser than that, but I won't say it. But basically it worked on the premise of an adult or minder parent who had really lost patience with the child they were looking after, and were saying, you know, just go sleep. And I think it was a book that did really well, and it was a book that was actually got a lot of airtime, and it was probably symptomatic, and is symptomatic of the era we live in and the times that people don't feel they have time and patience for children in the way that they should have. And we were coming at things from a very different angle. We wanted to celebrate the importance of children in our lives, the fact they are often overlooked, and they are the future, of course, and there's also the fact that in so many ways, children in a way will be very direct and honest with you about some of the things that matter in the world. So I mean, this book is about justice in a way, and it's about righting a wrong. But that's almost something that in a way is easy to put in a children's book, because children have a great sense of right and wrong, and that injustice shouldn't be accepted. So we were working on that premise that there should be a book like that. And of course we felt, coming from where we were in terms of politics at the time, there are so few books really about collective struggle, or about taking on privilege and taking on maybe the powers of authority. And one of the ideas in the book is this idea that what do you do when an injustice, you know, comes into your life? And of course, as we say rightly, and we now make a much stronger point, but we say, you know, children, you must speak out, and you must say it to someone, and you must talk about it. But what if what happens is not actually going to be dealt with in any way by the authorities that are there? What if the authorities say, we don't care, we're not interested in your the injustice you're saying is wrong? And what if you go to, you know, the official civil authorities, and they also say, it's not of any interest to us? So we wanted to provide a means, as this story does, for parents and adults to talk with children about things like how you do need to take on injustice, and sometimes it means going to other people who see what's wrong also, and working with them to bring about change. And that's an important idea we both feel for the future. Now more than ever, people need to, I think, be more aware that we may have to rely on ourselves to right some of the fundamental wrongs that are there, that we can't really leave it up to others, that we must do it ourselves. And that's an idea that I think will go down very well, that in terms of environmental issues which are touched on in the book. a lot of people, and children in particular, are outraged when they do learn about some of the things that go on. So one of the themes in this is about pollution on a golf course, and in the particular area of the Old Head, which is an absolutely beautiful area. You know, the idea of pesticides and insecticides polluting the area is an affront to many, many people. And I think children get the idea that if we are to do something about saving the environment, saving the planet, it's going to be up to us. And I think that's another part of the book that, in a way, has struck a chord with people. So we're absolutely delighted that so far the book has got a really positive response. A lot of people have said to us, it's great, there is a book like this around, do some more. And we may do more in time, and we're looking into that idea of perhaps following it up in some way. As myself and Spark were talking on the way up, there's, as you know, so many issues that could be written about and that are important to address, so we'll see in time. But I want to go on just to thank a few people very quickly. Most important of all, in respect to this book, if I get the mathematics of this right, they almost confound me. They say a book is 1% perspiration, and not 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration. In this case, it was 1% inspiration, 19% perspiration, and 80% illustration. And it's truly a magnificent work. Spark worked on those illustrations over a long time. They're all there, the original watercolours. They're absolutely beautiful. One day we hope they'll be put on as an exhibition. They're remarkable. They've made this book, and without them, the story would just be, I don't know, a skeleton in a sense. So my huge thanks to Spark for all the work she's put into it and for making it has such a pleasurable experience in the last number of months getting this book out and around to so many people. In particular, I must thank Mary, who stood by me over many years of frustration with writing, and it's been great. She was a big supporter of this book from the outset, and has always said, you know, get it out there. And straight away, once it came out, she said, it's absolutely fantastic. And she's backed it all the way. She wants us to do another print run, but that's another story. Radine is here. Saoirse isn't here. Saoirse and Radine both had an inspirational role in the book, and much more than they realised. So it's always with a dedication to them that I look at the book. A big thanks to them all. My sister Mary is here, and was also giving me great support over the years, and our family. It's lovely to see you here, and it's great that you've supported me as well in these endeavours, which sometimes seem a bit abstract. Anyway, to go on, as was pointed out very rightly by someone, this will be a quiz question one day. Can you identify yourself? There's a number of people that said to me, I know, that's me. And I'd be going, But the point is that this is absolutely the case, that the book was really inspired by the grassroots activists who, through so many campaigns, I've been involved in one way or the other. I've seen people over the years do such phenomenal work. And in the Old Head, we've gone and looked at some of the old photographs to do with the campaign, and I see so many faces there that such great people who put their heart and soul into fighting for a very just cause. And I know it's the case that this book really, in another sense, is dedicated to the activism and grassroots activism of the many people who have often fought and not won campaigns, but in the water tax recently fought and won. And I think that grassroots activism at the end of the day is the heart and soul of democracy, and it's the heart and soul of real change one day. And we dedicate this book wholeheartedly to the activists who have taken part in so many great campaigns over many years. A special mention for Fionn, who's here, who helped us with one of our early stage edits. I don't want to forget, thank you so much. We had a number of young readers who looked through the book early stage and said, no, that's bad. No. and we changed a few things. And it was that process of that particular project, that was obviously very important. Different things like that were all part of the process. So many people's efforts really went into making the book work in the end. One person said to me a while back, what did I think would be the impact of the book? And I thought one nice thing about this book is that if it is read to children and they look at it at bedtime and they fall asleep to it, I think they could fall asleep with the idea that they can change the world in their heads. And I think that's a great way to go to sleep, because you wake up the next morning and you'll want to do something like that. So thank you all so much.
Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, okay, because I've got a very quiet voice, so I'm never sure if people can hear me. So first of all, I'd really like to say a very, very warm welcome to you all. I know hardly anybody here, only 2 people actually, and Eve. And a special warm welcome to all the young people who are here, because the book really is for young people. A lot of people have asked me, how were the illustrations made? Like, how did they actually come about? And Kevin had seen a book that I had written and illustrated a few years before and really liked it. And I'm really interested in working on projects that are quite unusual, so projects that wouldn't normally, say, get published or get into a mainstream environment. So he'd seen a book that I'd written called Into the Serpent's Jaws, which is a book that's looking at fear, basically, and not being put off in life by fear and working through fear and becoming stronger through the process of change. So he approached me and said, with an outline for this book, and said, would you be interested? And I immediately thought, this book sounds so amazing, so interesting, because we just don't see books on this kind of a subject. So Kevin had a bit of an outline, he had nothing written, he just explained the ideas behind the book and asked me to do some sketches. So I went away, did a few sketches and brought them back, and he really loved them. So the illustrations came about through a process of collaboration. We would meet, we would talk, I would go away, I would sketch, bring the sketches back, and then we'd look at the sketches and he'd add his ideas. We kind of spark off each other, we get ideas through talking, and then I'd go away and finish a pencil sketch, and then I'd complete the sketch in watercolour. So that process probably took between 4 and 5 days for each illustration, which sounds a huge amount of time, but if you make art, and I know some people here do make art, it does take a lot more time than maybe many people would realise. I think we had a great time working on the project. There were a few ups and downs along the way, but I think we've learned a huge amount from working together, and there's something really lovely about collaboration, because, and we were talking about it in the car on the way up, there's something very different when you work on a project with people. It's like you have yourself and you have the other person or the other people, but you also have what's between you all. And that's an extra special thing that cannot be quantified, and something you don't really know what it will be until you begin the project. So it's something that's created through the energies of all the people who are involved. I'd like to say a couple of thank yous as well. Really, when you produce your own books, there are a lot of people involved in just the production side of actually producing a book. So I'd like to thank Alison Burns, who's the graphic designer who worked on the project. She did a lovely job with the design, and these things actually make a lot of difference to your product. Also, the scans of the pictures. We had a really good scanner come on board, and he did excellent scanning, which means you get really high quality pictures, really good color reproductions, and really clear images. And also, of course, City Print in Cork, who are fantastic printers, and they printed the book for us to, again, very high quality. So I think, you know, our eventual product stands up in any bookshop alongside any other book you would see, and you would think, oh, that's a kind of a, you know, self-published thing. Obviously, it's becoming a lot easier to produce your own books nowadays. Anyway, it's been a wonderful journey. It's taken us to places that I never thought that we would go. I never expected to be here when we started this book. I think I thought maybe I'd do Cork, but you know, there we go, we're here, and it's actually gone to California, yes, Australia, Scotland, London, Midlands in England. Anywhere else? that's it. We hope it will go further.
It's got Poland
Yeah.
as well.
Poland, yeah. So that's it really. Thank you so much for coming. We really, really appreciate your support, and so do the Worms. I think they have a long way to go. Okay, thanks very much.
Am I in shot? That's very important to me. Thanks everybody for coming. It's been really great that you could be here. I think it's really special. I'm glad the kids, Fiona's not here, but never work with children or animals. But anyway, it's great that they're here. I think the other thing that I didn't mention earlier on, and I said this earlier on, or I said it as a joke, but like launching a book is actually like a launch. I mean, I said I was going to so many book launches. I felt like it was like a space program. You know, everything was a launch, like a launch here, a launch there. But actually, what happens when you? That's great. Glad you came back, guys. When you do launch it, you don't know where it's going to go. And one of the things that Kevin has always been in my life has been a huge source of inspiration. So you need people who are trailblazers. And what, Bert, don't mess up my shot. You need people who are trailblazers, and Kevin is one of those people. Well, now by producing the book with Spark, what they've done is, what they will do, this is the way to deal with your children. What they will do is they will inspire others. So Kevin has always been an inspiration in my life. Now with the worms, the rebellious worms, will start that cycle again and inspire another generation of activists, because the world will only be saved by activists. It won't be saved by anybody else. So the book is officially launched. Please buy many copies, because it takes copies being sold to convince Kevin to actually order more for the print one. And I think that is also essential for the success of this book, that another print one needs to happen, and we need to get more of these books out there. So that's it. Thank you very much. Oh yeah, that's true. Oh yeah, we get. Since we have the authors here, does anybody want to ask questions? Because it's an opportune time to do that. Are any young readers got any questions?
Or writers?
Or writers? Or artists, yes, sorry. Oh, very good. A question down the front.
If you weren't like working on books, like what jobs would you like to have had?
Oh, that's a good question.
Sort of jobs I'd really love to have. I'd like to be on a spaceship, I think.
Well, I have another job that I really love as well, and that's teaching art to young people. So I do a mixture of making art and books, and then I also teach art and do creative projects with lots of people. So it's a brilliant job to have.
Great. Bye-bye. Anybody else got any other questions? That is a good question.
Yeah, Dubliners Books will have it from Tuesday onwards, which is great. They just get it out to the shop. So, and then Eason's will have it later on in the month. And then Winding Stairs Bookshop have it in Dublin as it is. And elsewhere around Ireland, I suppose Eason's will be the big one outside nationally. But Dubliners Books for the moment, I think they have 6 or 7 shops, haven't they, in the greater?
This is a running joke in the house about the reprint run. And they need to have confidence in the fact that it's time to go again. There aren't actually that many left. And they have an Eason's distribution deal now for having won the independent award. And once it goes in there, there will be none left.
How many easy stores are there? Multiply by how many books?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Work it out.
I think we should put it to a vote as to whether it should be a rerun.
Well, otherwise, buy them and then he has to pre-order them. That's the real way.
Caroline Copeland is here, who is the originator of the Indie Book Awards, and we entered this year, and I mean, we won it, and it was such an honour. And one of the great outcomes from winning it is that you get a distribution deal with Eason's and Do Great Books. So, okay, so
Yes, that's what
thanks so much.
Thank you.